Okay, so I'm about set for my 20-mile hike along the Appalachian Trail, as I had previously said. Um, Pretty much got my backpack in the final form that I think it's going to take for the hike, or as close that it's going to be to the day I actually leave. I had mentioned that there are a couple things still missing from the pack. I'll probably throw some granola bars, some high energy bars in here yet, and some honey roasted peanuts. And I need batteries for all my electronic equipment. 43 pounds, which is actually not a bad weight at all. And when we talk about summer travel, um, your pack ranges can be anywhere from 30 to 45 pounds. I typically pack a little heavier. The reason for that is I carry extra food. If I think I'm going to be out for, well, let's just put it this way. Day hiking. There is no such thing as a day hike. If you're going to go out into any remote stretch of wilderness, and you think that you're going to go pack in a light little pack with a couple sandwiches and a bottle of water and you're going to be out for the day, it's the wrong mentality to have. If you're going out into the remote places of the wilderness, there are certain things that you need to have in your pack and as part of your kit. And the mentality that I'm only going out for the day is really the wrong mentality to have, and I tell that to a lot of people that I meet or who are interested or ask me. The reason I say that is Mother Nature and your physical condition is going to determine whether you have a day hike or if you spend a night in the woods or 2 nights in the woods. It happens all the time, especially if we're going up in sketchy weather. We're going to go up above tree line into the mountains, and this is a very unpredictable atmosphere. We can talk about hyperextending our knees, spraining our ankles. Just something as simple as that can change a day hike to an overnight really quickly. You should have some warm clothing for one, even in the height of summer like it will be on July 4th when I do this hike. The mountains are usually typically around 20 degrees cooler than the valleys are. So if we're going to have a really rainy day and the temperatures drops around 60, 50 degrees, in the valleys we're talking about 30, 40 degrees on the summits. So especially if we're in exposed areas of ridges and those sorts of things, temperatures can drop pretty quickly, and it's not unusual to get hypothermia in the summertime. But not only that, physically exerting yourself, climbing these mountains, climbing all this rough terrain, working up that sweat, burning all of those calories, pushing your body to the limit over miles and miles of rough terrain can cause hypothermia as well if the temperatures drop. And I'm here to testify to that. It can happen, and it's something you need to plan for. So if you're going to go out on a day hike, you should carry yourself some warm clothes, carry yourself some rain gear, have some type of means to build a fire. I think because of the sheer importance of fire that you should carry multiple means of building a fire. You should have some high energy food or some extra food with you. Um, and that's kind of the way this pack is designed. I've got more food than I really need, but hey, maybe I decide that I've got 3 days, 4 days to do this trip, and I can do it in a day and a half. Maybe I decide that hell, I found a beautiful spot next to some beautiful view somewhere. I'm just going to spend the day here. Well, now I have the extra food to do that. And if I do hyperextend a knee, or I do have some issue getting out of the wilderness, I have a little bit of extra food, so that's always good to have. So again, your mentality should be always spending one extra night in the wilderness than you think you're going to spend. Most survival situations, most people who get lost in the wilderness, we're talking about a 72 to 74 hour ordeal, 24 to 72 hours. Do survival situations extend past that? Yes, they do. But the typical average situation, lost hiker, lost hunter, you're usually talking around 72 hours in the woods. So you should always pack a little extra. Alright, so anyway, just stuff that's within reach of my pack. Right here I have a 3-liter Camelback water bladder. Now, this pack is designed with an internal pocket to keep this water bladder, and most all packs these days are. And it'll have a hole in the back of the pack for the tube element to come out for you to get a drink of water. I like to keep my Camelback strapped to the outside. Now, my Camelback is in a thermal protective cover that has shoulder straps as well. So, for example, once I reach the ridge just short of Sugarloaf, it's a 6/10 of a mile to the summit. I can take this water bladder off, put it on my backpack, or put it on my back, and this top pouch of my backpack comes off, makes a fanny pack, so I can take a little bit of gear and I can book it up that, round trip mile and a tenth or whatever it is, without having to carry the entire 43 pounds of weight with me. So that's kind of a nice option. Plus, when it comes to filling your water bladder out of a stream, you really, if it's buried in your pack, it's going to be really hard to fill it, so you got to keep pulling it out and putting it back in your pack anyway. So this just kind of makes it a little bit more convenient for me. What else do I have in arm's reach? I have my U.S. Army style K-bar carbon steel, high carbon steel knife. A lot of people might ask themselves, well, why would you, need a knife of that size? Carbon steel knives gives me a lot of options. One is that using the back of this blade and a spark producing stone like quartz, I can create a spark to make a fire with it. Plus, you should never go into the wilderness without a good knife. I mean, with this knife, I can make a lot of other tools to affect my survival should I need to in an emergency situation. And that's basically more what it's for than anything else. I also carry a Leatherman multi-tool with me. These are really nice little handy items to have. It's got a smaller cutting blade on it, and it's also got a serrated blade on one side, good for cutting strapping and cordage. The smaller blade is good for doing smaller work like building snares, traps, that sort of thing. And then one of the other things I also carry is a 22 channel Midland two-way radio. But the most important feature of this, and the reason I carry it probably more than anything, is because it has an NOAA weather data on it.
This brings the monthly total to 43, which is 9 below normal. The yearly total since January 1st is 43,
and then that gives me 8 different channels to fine-tune that
record high for today is 96, which
to a stronger signal. But also, on a secondary note, I carry it as just another secondary form of communication should I get injured or I have some sort of issue. Despite the manufacturer's claims on these radios, these outstanding claims of 25-mile range, 30-mile range, this range on these two-way radios is extremely subjective. About the only time you're going to get that kind of range out of this radio, and it's a 25-mile range radio, is out on the open water with very good weather under perfect circumstances. When we get up into the mountains, the most this radio is going to get maybe is it can get down to within a half a mile, and maybe that's all. Broadcasting from a summit would be your best option, but again, the range is very limited on these things despite what the manufacturer says. So don't always take his word for it when you're purchasing these radios. Just understand that they do have a much more limited range than they're advertised to have. I also carry a cell phone for that purpose, but cell phones in a lot of places are going to be almost totally useless. However, you can sometimes get a text out at any rate. So those are just the items I keep right close at hand. And now we'll dig into the pack and see what I got in here.